Hi everyone, I'm Jeff Boudier. I'm on the product team at Hugging Face. And today I'm really excited to tell you about how you, as a developer, can take advantage of all the latest and greatest in machine learning with Hugging Face and GitHub. And thank you very much to the GitHub team for inviting me to the stage today. If there's anything that I'm going to be talking about that you have questions about, don't hesitate to send me an email. I am at jeff@huggingface.co. So looking forward to it. In this session, I want to have two main parts. In the first one, I want to give you context about what happened over the past 2 and 3 years in the world of machine learning and what does it mean for companies and what they can do with it. And then in the second part, I want to walk you through how you can take advantage of it from a very practical point of view, taking advantage of all the models and all the tools that are available on Hugging Face. All right, well, let's get started. And before we get in the thick of it, I want to start by asking you sort of a trivia question, which is, what do the Tesla autopilots and Gmail and Facebook and Bing all have in common? And well, they have many things in common, but the one thing I'm interested in is the transformer machine learning architecture. It's a transformer model that the Tesla autopilot uses to make decisions and drive the car. It's a transformer model that tries to complete your sentences when you're typing an email in Gmail. It's a transformer model that translates automatically posts from your friends from every corner of the world into your own language or any other language. And it's a transformer that gives you answers as you ask questions in natural language in search engines like Bing or Google. And there's another thing that all these experiences have in common is that each of them is being powered by billions of transformer model predictions, inferences every single day. And that's a huge technical feat, a huge engineering challenge that today only the biggest tech companies in the world are able to tackle at scale. And so what is Hugging Face in this? Well, Hugging Face is making all these technologies, all these models accessible to the rest of us, accessible to every single company on Earth, so that everybody can take advantage of the latest and greatest in machine learning. We have a deep belief in Hugging Face, which is that machine learning is becoming the default way to build new technology. And what does that mean in practice? Well, say a product manager wants to create a new feature in their app. The old way of doing things would have been to write 1,000 lines of code and see how that works. With machine learning, the approach is to find a machine learning model that does a decent job at solving the problem and then going from there. So how do we get there? Well, let me roll back the tape a little bit to about 10 years ago when Mark Andreessen said that software is eating the world. And that prediction has come true. And what happened was developers finally had the tools to build their code reliably, to collaborate around code, to build on top of abstraction layers like APIs and cloud, to solve problems that apply in every single sector of the economy. And then a few years later, something else happened, which is machine learning finally started to work. And that prompted Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, to say, well, while software may be eating the world, AI is going to be eating software. And finally, those convolutional networks, those recurring neural networks were used by companies, applying them to real use cases in production to do powerful things. So how did that come to be? Well, the way that it started is that neural networks were basically resurrected from the research lab through cheap compute so that companies could apply massive amount of data to crunch into accurate models. And in order to do that work, well, you needed to use what I would call expert tools, tools that require a deep understanding of deep learning, of machine learning. Tools like a TensorFlow or Torch. And these tools were not accessible to a developer, not quite developer friendly enough. And so what a typical project, what a typical machine learning project looked like is something a bit like this, where a lot of very tedious work is spent to aggregate, collect, clean data, prepare data in order to feed into a model that needs to be trained, that needs to be evaluated, that needs to be deployed. Typically a whole process that would take about a whole year. And then whenever there's a new problem that comes along, well, you need to start the whole process from scratch. And what followed from that is that it kind of limited the impact of machine learning in the world. It limited the amount of value it had, with most projects being worked on by data scientists in companies all over the world, never making it into production, which is the real measure of value, the real measure of impact of the technology in the world. But then came about transformers. And with transformers came the advent of deep learning 2.0. So what happened? What happened is that we had a novel architecture, transformers, that introduced a novel idea of transfer learning with new kinds of hardware that was designed from the ground up to solve machine learning, and a new breed of developer-friendly tools so that all of this stuff can be used easily into production in applications within companies. So starting with transformers, you can read it in the State of AI report that just came out a few weeks ago. Transformers have emerged as a general purpose architecture for ML, meaning you can apply for any kind of machine learning problem you're facing. And the resulting trends in usage, with transformers usage sharply going up and taking over what had been traditionally the job of recurring or convolutional neural networks. So the transformers architecture. But one of the main and I think the most impactful idea that came out of the Attention is All You Need, a seminal paper introduced by Google Brain in 2017, is transfer learning. And what is transfer learning? Transfer learning is the ability to take a massive pre-trained model that has been trained on gigantic corpora of data using massive millions of dollars worth of compute into a model that can be very efficiently adapted, fine-tuned into a model that works specifically for a task, for a specific task. So that's transfer learning, and that's very powerful. It's the ability to build upon each other's work within the community. And so you remember that long cycle of development for a typical project of machine learning. Well, today, the process of machine learning project is really 2 or maybe 3 steps. The first step is to identify what machine learning task corresponds to the problem you're trying to solve, the feature you're trying to build. And there are tasks, machine learning tasks, that are pre-built and available, whether you're working with text, or you're working with images or videos, or you're working with speech or audio. For text, it can be sentiment analysis, sequence classification, summarization, translation. For images, it could be classifying images or recognizing objects or removing a background. For speech, it can be transcribing speech as I'm speaking into text, or it can be turning text into speech. It can be recognizing who's speaking. And so for any of those problems, any of those type of features, there are pre-trained models that you can find that are working great at this particular task. And so once you have the task, then it's easier to pick the pre-trained model that will give you state-of-the-art performance, meaning that's the best possible accuracy you can get in the model predictions. And you don't need to do the whole cycle of gathering and cleaning and prepping huge data sets to create your own model from scratch. In fact, it's only 2 lines of code to take an out-of-the-box pre-trained model from a hub like the Hugging Face hub. And then if you think that for your particular data, you can have even better accuracy, then that's the fine-tuning process. And you only need a little bit of labeled data in order to take the pre-trained model that does already a pretty good job into a fine-tuned model that does a great job on your specific problem and data. So that's the new process of transfer learning. And what we've seen in the State of AI report, what we've seen in the Kaggle survey, is that transformers are now eating deep learning. And we're seeing that the general purpose architecture of transformers can be applied to any kind of machine learning problem, from NLP to computer vision to speech to reinforcement learning, etc. And then every single sector of the economy is starting to adopt those models in order to build AI-powered features. So, in this whole context, in this whole revolution, what is the role of Hugging Face? Well, our mission is to democratize good machine learning, to make the latest and greatest in machine learning, built from ethics-first principles, accessible to as many people and as many companies in the world. And a characteristic way in everything that we do at Hugging Face is we want to do everything in a community-driven way. So while we may be a team of 150 and some contributors, we represent the aggregated contribution of over 1,500 open source contributors. And similarly, on the Hugging Face Hub, you can find over 100,000 free, publicly accessible machine learning models and datasets. And those are available in every single language spoken to men and many not spoken to men, so that you can apply them in any country in the world on any type of data that you can imagine. And this approach on community-driven development has resulted in an unprecedented adoption of the Hugging Face ecosystem. And here I have pictured the Transformers GitHub stars that show the popularity of the library. And compared with these other awesome open source projects, you can see that the rate of growth in the last 3 years from 0 to 70,000 stars has been staggering. And today there are over 8 million downloads of the Transformers library happening every month. And so Transformers and Hugging Face are becoming the de facto way through which companies all over the world are applying machine learning to their business. And of course, I talked about natural language processing, NLP, dealing with text, because that's where Transformers come from. That's where they were first applied. But today on the Hub, you can find models, you can solve problems in computer vision, in speech, with biomedical data, drug discovery, protein, with reinforcement learning, with time-based series data. Any kind of problem can be solved through machine learning and Transformers. And so the end result is that today on the Hugging Face Hub, on huggingface.co, where you can find all these models, where you can find all these data sets, we see over 100,000 people coming every single day and downloading over 1 million models every single day. And I talked a lot about Transformers. And Transformers are cool. But the coolest new kid on the block is diffusers. I'm sure you've seen on your Twitter, on Reddit, these cool images that are created by just adding a prompt with a stable diffusion demo. Diffusers can be applied to generate images, to generate videos, to generate music, sound. And it's only the beginning. And just like with Transformers, if you want to access any of those state-of-the-art models, just like with Transformers, with the diffusers library from Hugging Face, you can do so as well, whichever framework you're working on, whichever model architecture you want to access, whichever model checkpoint you want to use. All right, so I gave you a bunch of context on like what happened over the last 2 and 3 years with machine learning and why it's able to do all of the things that it's able to do now. And now is the time for me to tell you how you can use all this stuff using tools that are available today, taking advantage of GitHub, of the Hugging Face Hub, to build machine learning into your own applications. So the good news is this. The good news is that with GitHub and with Hugging Face, you have everything you need to build machine learning powered features. And the other good news is that as you know how to work, how to build with GitHub, you already know how to work and how to build with Hugging Face, so that you can build and maintain and collaborate around your code with GitHub. And so you can build and you can collaborate around your models, your data sets, around your demo apps with the Hugging Face Hub. And at the end of the day, for you, all of this are Git repos, which you can use very easily already as you know how to work with code. All right, so what can you do with the Hugging Face Hub? How do people go about building machine learning features with Hugging Face? The first thing that you can do is explore all these models and data sets that are free and accessible to you. I told you there are over 100,000 of them that are free and accessible. If you go to huggingface.co today and you go to look at models, you will see about 80,000 different models that you can apply to your business problem. How do you go to sort through that jungle of models? Well, you can very quickly and easily filter them down to the problem that you want to solve. As I said earlier, the new way of doing machine learning, first thing, to identify the machine learning task that you want to apply. And you can do that very easily on the Hugging Face Hub by just selecting the task, and then you can select the language that you want to work in, the framework that you want to work in, and quickly narrow down to the set of pre-trained models that you can use in your application. So now you've explored the Hugging Face Hub and you found a model that you like. So here I'm showing you what a model page on the Hugging Face Hub looks like. And this is a model page for the Whisper open source model that OpenAI just released a few weeks ago. It's an incredible model to do automatic speech recognition, which is how you transcribe speech into text. And so what you're looking at right now is the model card for the Whisper large model of OpenAI. And it gives you all the information that you need to know about the model, how it was built, which paper it comes from, what are the possible risks associated with that model, the performance of that model. You can even try it right from the page. And because everything on the Hugging Face Hub is essentially under the hood a Git repo, you also have access to all of the repo contents. And within that Whisper large repository, you can find every single file that is part of it. And for the whole repo, you can look at the full history of the repo, its contributions over time. For every contribution, there is a unique commit ID that you can use and refer to have clear version control in how you're integrating your model. And of course, for each of those files, you have the full history and the content of the file that you can explore right there in place from the hub. But of course, you want to interact with this with code. So how do you do? You can simply git clone the repository so you have access on your local machine, and you can git add and git commit and git push to contribute to the model. So I showed you how you can explore models on a Hugging Face Hub, how you can manage your own models with a Hugging Face Hub, taking advantage of version control, taking advantage of Git-based workflows. The next thing that you can do once you have a model is to collaborate around that model. And to collaborate around that model, you can go on the community tab that is available on every single model repository in Hugging Face. And in the community tab, you can create new pull requests. So you can suggest changes to the model author. So you can contribute new files to the model repository. And when you create a pull requests, you can engage and collaborate with the rest of the community through discussions. And speaking of discussions, in addition to pull requests, when you can see the changes as they happen, you have the ability to create discussions, to engage and ask questions to the model authors. What is the license of this model? Have you thought about adding this feature, etc.? Everything you're used to doing on GitHub, you can do on the Hugging Face Hub to interact around the models, the data sets, and the demo apps. So we talked about how you can explore models, how you can manage your own models, how you can collaborate around your models. Now, the next thing is how do you use these things and how you use those models where there is a very useful abstraction on a Hugging Face called tasks. And as I told you at the beginning, the first thing you want to do is to identify the machine learning task that can solve your problem. And on Hugging Face, there are a ton of different tasks for very different kind of modalities. So here you can see tasks for natural language processing, for text. You can easily summarize, translate, classify, analyze the sentiment of text. But there are also tasks for audio. There are also tasks for computer vision. There are also tasks for reinforcement learning, and etc. But what do those tasks mean in practice for you in code? Well, in the Transformers library, there's a class called pipeline. And the transformer pipeline is the implementation of a machine learning task, so that you don't have to worry about the tokenizer and the token level things and how to pre-process your input and how to post-process your output. Everything is encapsulated and abstracted at the task level through the pipeline. And so using a machine learning model, a pre-trained model that you find on a Hugging Face hub that will solve your problem. And here it's a Facebook model. It's the BART MNLI model in order to do zero-shot classification. It's only really a couple lines of code, right? So you've pipt install transformer, you pulled pipeline. Now you define that object referring to the model checkpoint, referring to the task that you want to apply. You send an input, you get the output back. So I told you about how you can manage models, how you can collaborate around models. I told you how you can use tasks to use those models to solve your problems. Now the next step is what if you want to adapt that model to have even better accuracy to your specific sort of business problem, your specific data, and that's the training. Well, the good news is that we built a no-code tool so that with zero knowledge of machine learning, but just a few examples of labeled data, you can go from zero to a state-of-the-art model. And this is what creating a new auto-train project looks like. You can select the number of model candidates that you want to start with. You can upload your labeled training data. It can be for natural language processing tasks. It can be for image classification, computer vision tasks, tabular data. And everything just happens automatically. Let me show you how it works. This is how you can create a new model with auto-train. Just select the machine learning task you want to apply, and all you have to do is upload your training data. In just a few clicks, you're able to fine-tune many machine learning models. Every model is going to be evaluated for the metrics for that task. And the best part of it is that every single model that AutoTrain creates is automatically uploaded, published, and deployed on the Hugging Face hub, so you can use it right from the hub and deploy it with inference endpoints. So that was AutoTrain, how to easily, without any code, train new state-of-the-art models that work even better in your particular context. Now, I want to talk to you about how, now that you have a model, how you can demo it to the community, how you can show to people what it can do. And to do that, you want to create a great demo app experience. And that's what the Spaces service on Hugging Face Hub allows you to do. So here is pictured a space, a machine learning app that is called Huggy, that is built to let you interact with an agent that's been built using the Hugging Face reinforcement learning tools. So with Huggy, you can interact with the agent. Everything is running, everything is hosted within this web page that you created as a space. And every single week, we feature some of the most interesting spaces, some of the most interesting machine learning demo apps created by the community. You can see this week, in addition to Huggy, you have an amazing stable diffusion powered outpainting experience. You have great natural language processing applications to summarize text, to give a positive spin to any text that you enter. So really cool demo apps that you can try, and are all powered by Spaces. And to talk to you about Spaces, I want to ask Nate to walk you through how it works and how you can use it.
The team here at Hugging Face is super excited to announce the public release of Spaces, the quickest and easiest way to build, deploy, and share machine learning demo apps. Machine learning projects come in all sorts of different flavors. We built Spaces because we wanted to provide a more flexible solution for folks to share their projects. With Spaces, you can take any existing code you might have, build an app around it in minutes, and share it instantly on our site, all for free. Let's see just how easy it is. To create a new space, first make sure you're logged into your Hugging Face account. Then simply click your user icon in the top corner and click New Space. Here's where we can name our project and choose one of the supported open source libraries we'd like to build our app with. Right now, you can select either Streamlit or Gradio. We'll name our app Demo App and choose Streamlit for the sake of this demo. Once we're ready, we can click Create Space to create a new project. Now, this project is actually a Git repo, so we could clone it locally to edit the files if we wanted to. We also have the option to just add and edit the files in the browser, so that's what we'll do for now. Let's add a requirements.txt file to our repo, which is how we can define our app's Python dependencies. To do that, we'll navigate to the Files and Versions tab and create a new file using the dropdown on the right. We'll name the file requirements.txt and add a couple dependencies, in this case PyTorch and Hugging Face's transformers. When we're done, we'll hit Commit New File to add it to our Spaces repo. To create the app itself, we'll add in another new file named app.py. In this file, we'll quickly define a simple Streamlit app that uses the default sentiment analysis pipeline from transformers to predict how positive or negative a given input text is. Just like before, when we're done, we'll hit Commit New File to add that application file to our repo. In just a few lines of code, we're finished, and we can view our running app from the App tab. If we choose to make our space public, we can easily share our app with anyone around the world by sharing the link to this space. In this video, we saw just how easy it is to build, deploy, and share machine learning demo apps with Hugging Face Spaces. Now it's time for you to get out there and share your own awesome demo with the world. For more information on Hugging Face Spaces, you can check out the docs or explore spaces shared by the community. Until next time, thanks for watching.
Thanks, Nate. So that's Spaces on the Hugging Face Hub. And just a few days ago, we released an exciting new feature that you can use today, which is the ability for you, as you created the space, to upgrade the underlying hardware, the underlying infrastructure that powers your space. And so very easily, you can select a higher CPU infrastructure or a variety of GPU infrastructures to provide you an even better experience to people who are going to try your space app. So now, I told you about how you can explore on the hub, find a model, manage the model, collaborate around the model. You can train an even better model, and then you can show it to the community with spaces. Here's the best part: how you can actually deploy it so you can use it in your application at scale very easily. And so to do that, we created a new service called Hugging Face Inference Endpoints. And when you go to deploy a transformer model or a machine learning model, you very quickly face a whole set of new types of problems with GPUs and dependencies and Dockers and Kubernetes. So it's a big endeavor to try to take a model and turn that into a service that's going to scale, that's going to be robust. That's what Hugging Face Inference Endpoints do for you. We basically made machine learning models completely plug and play for you. Pick the model, get the service, integrate into your app. Here's how it works. First, you select the model that you want to deploy. Then you select the cloud provider that you want to use. Today, it can be AWS or Azure. You select the region that you want to use. The closer to your data, the better. And then you can even select the type of instance, the type of compute that you want to use, the auto-scaling logic so that you can scale horizontally your model, and the security setting that you want so that you can go from a public endpoint all the way to a secure private endpoint that uses a private link under the hood to build a direct connection to your VPC so that anybody but your VPC can connect to the endpoint. Nobody on the internet can connect to your endpoint. That's what the secure endpoint does. Once you created your endpoint, it's available to you, it's dedicated to you. If it's protected, only you or people in your organization can have access to it. And you have easy access to logs, to monitoring, so that you can manage your application and see it scale up and down and update your endpoints as you update your models. And so very easily, you can create a fleet of models that are working for you without having to deal with any infrastructure. So today I've told you what happened in machine learning, what it means for companies, and I walked you through what you can do using the tools that are available today to take advantage of all these new possibilities that machine learning models offer to you. So you can manage and collaborate with the hub around your own models. So you can use these models using Hugging Face tasks. So you can even improve upon them with auto-train. So you can demo your models with the community, with your organization, with Hugging Face Spaces, and how you can take those models and turn them into scalable production services that you can simply integrate into your apps as an API. If you know how to use GitHub, you know how to use the Hugging Face Hub, and with GitHub and the Hugging Face Hub, you have everything you need to build powerful machine learning features into your own applications. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of the talks.